Saturday!
Welcome to Small Business Saturdays video series with your host and my husband.
And my dad, Aaron Montgomery.
Join the conversation.
Let's talk some business.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me here today. It's Saturday morning, as usual, Small Business Saturday. I'm pretty darn excited about today. I don't know if those of you that don't know, I live in the St. Louis metro area here, and the gentleman that's going to be joining me does as well. But we had a big snowstorm yesterday, so my studio is about a couple miles away from my house. I was a little nervous about making it here, but made it no problem. So streets are rough, but still passable. But looking forward to getting back home and building a snowman with my son, who you heard there on the intro, and my wife. So let's dive into this here today, guys. I am excited to welcome in a guest that I met not too long ago, and I'm really excited to talk to him because this also, not only do I think this is going to be great for you guys, but I think this is going to be great for me too. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Dan Vincent in here. Dan, just a second. We're getting him up in. There we go. Dan, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great. I'm still in the comforts of my own home, but yeah, excited to enjoy the snow later today.
Awesome. Great. Yeah. So Dan is with Kaleo Coaching. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, great. And we're going to talk all about finding your strengths and some other things like that here this morning. But welcome a couple of folks in. Rich, good morning. Thank you for joining us here this morning. And I want to make sure that everybody that's listening, we want to get your comments. I want to ask Dan the questions that you want to know about. So make sure that you're at facebook.com/aaronmontgomery.info if you're watching this. So for some reason, Facebook doesn't like to show comments on these third-party apps like I'm using here with BeLive.tv. So I'll only see those comments and post them up there and ask Dan those questions if you're directly from my Facebook page there at facebook.com/aaronmontgomery.info. Like Rich there this morning. So good morning, everybody. But Dan, let's dive into this here. And I want to get through a lot of information, and I don't want to keep you all day here. So tell us first what being a strength coach means to you, and how did you get involved with it? Maybe just give us your origin story here.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So a strengths coach is someone who specializes in using Gallup's Clifton Strengths Assessment. It's also known as Strengths Finder. It might be a way people have heard about it. And they use this assessment in order to guide a person in understanding their natural talents to develop and apply them in all aspects of their life. So my story really is kind of why I'm here as a strengths coach, because I once found myself in an entry-level cubicle job that I did not anticipate having. And it led me to redefine what I believed to be my calling. Don Clifton, he's the man who created this StrengthsFinder assessment. He once said that when you discover your talents, you begin to discover your calling. And when you develop those talents into strengths and you apply those strengths, you fulfill your calling. Now, for me, I had been chasing a title because I really believed that was my call in life. But I realized that chasing that title became more like a set of shackles for me. It never occurred in the way that I thought it should occur. And I came to realize that my calling in life had so much more to do with the talents that I have to offer and less to do with a title, a job that I may or may not have. And so taking this assessment 5 years ago, I received solid coaching throughout that process, and choosing to remain content in the company I was working with, I began to navigate different opportunities that matched my strengths, began applying this strengths-based concept, and it grew this passion inside of me to want to be able to coach others to do the same.
Awesome. Okay. Well, that sounds fantastic. I know when you and I first started talking, you had mentioned Gallup, and I went, wait a second, what is that? And so that is the same company that does all the research, right? That like a lot of news sources and things like that, they reference, the Gallup poll.
Yeah, common in presidential pollings, and really they do all human behavior research around all human behavior. Human behavior is it's like an economy, so it has indicators, it has patterns, and so they do a lot of research around all areas of life. And so we most commonly hear around like political pollings and things like that.
Yeah. But obviously this is backed by people that have done the research, taken the time, and so it's not all just kind of random. This is
That's
very
right.
scientifically based. So that's what really excites me about it too, to be able to put your finger on it. So
Yes.
a couple just Todd is brave the blizzard. He's north of us there in Illinois to make it to the shop today to watch. So thanks for joining us today, Todd. Appreciate that. And Teresa said good morning, Aaron and Dan. So good morning, Teresa. So again, guys, we want to hear your comments. We want to hear your questions. I've got some things that I plan to extract from Dan here, but you guys are welcome to post your comments at any point. So, all right, Dan. Well, let me get to one of my questions here. So I want to know, when you went through this for the first time yourself, before you kind of became a strength coach, how did it change things for you? What did that kind of light bulbs did that make go off for you?
Yeah, and I'll go back to that word calling. It really led me to shift my understanding and kind of relearn, what I'm supposed to be doing in this life. I realized I could fulfill my calling in a variety of work environments. We like to use this term a lot in terms of what we might want to do as a job, or what we might want to do as a volunteer experience or something like that. But what I realized was that it has much more about me and less to do with that job or that opportunity. In other words, your strengths reflect your calling. It reflects the good work that you're designed to provide your community. And those opportunities, like your vocation or a volunteer experience, that's simply how you choose to work that out.
Yeah.
So I spent more than 7 years in a corporate environment. Prior to that, I spent several years in ministry, including overseas as a missionary in Brazil. And then most recently, I've been spending 2 years directing a nonprofit organization that supports organizations working in Haiti that are serving the extreme poor throughout Haiti. And so across all of those variety of environments, I've learned how to apply my strengths and work out that calling across all of those opportunities.
Nice. Yeah. So, I mean, that's, I think really, you and I talked about this a little bit before when we had a chance to meet. That's really what's interesting to me too, is that it's not necessarily about the different things. It's about kind of being able to provide back to your community. So for example, for a small business person, you understand what your strengths are. Now you can go ahead, put that into your business and provide better services, better, garments for the folks watching that are t-shirt people, those kinds of things. And you're focused on your strengths. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through this here, Dan. But so with the coaching that you do, what are some things that stick out to you as the benefits your clients have seen from going through this process with you?
Yeah. So I've been working with organizations and individuals alike in the last year. And one of the things that I love talking to organizations specifically is to help them to understand that strengths is a legitimate business strategy. And of the few organizations that I've been coaching, one example is a local chiropractor's office I've been working with. Mm-hmm. And it has beyond increased the awareness of each other's strengths. So it's more than just talking about this theory of, we get each other's personalities. I think a lot of us have taken those assessments where we sit back and be like, oh yeah, that's neat. That makes sense. Moving along now.
Yeah.
But they're using this tool and through kind of the coaching program I'm leading them through, they're strategically placing each other in positions to succeed, which helps the overall business. Gallup, among all their polling that we just referenced that they do, they have an employee engagement survey. And one of the questions on the survey, it's actually a statement, and it's really just like a true false thing, but it states, at work, I have the chance to do what I do best every day. And unfortunately, few people that take that assessment actually agree with that statement, that they have the opportunity to do what they best every day. But the teams that are focusing on strengths and they're intentionally positioning their people to be able to answer positively to that question, they are outperforming teams that don't focus on strengths. So they're seeing, according to Gallup's research, those strengths-based teams, they're seeing 12% greater productivity in their employees, and they're seeing almost 9% greater profitability. So there is definitely a legitimate business case to becoming what we'd call strengths-based.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's really interesting. And for those of you that are tuning in and watching, let me know in the comments if you guys have employees, because you told me a story, Dan, that I'd love for you to share with the folks here around the chiropractor's office, and how it helps with employees and putting them in the right places. You referenced that employees, don't always feel like they're put in the best spot to do their best work. So maybe if you could kind of elaborate on that and tell that story that you told me, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, sure. So let me back up and just make sure we're understanding when we're saying strengths.
Yeah.
Essentially, what this, essentially the foundation of this assessment and this model is that we all have talent. Yeah. And talent is simply a pattern of thinking, feeling, and behaving. So it's less of a categorization of people, and it's more of a new language to really understand why people tick the way they do. Yeah. What's your motivation for being naturally observant and looking for patterns? Why do you prefer to be structured? Why somebody is just naturally good at making new connections with new people, things of that nature. And so this chiropractor's office, that as they've uncovered their natural talents, they begin to identify the different motivations that they have, and why some people are better at little tasks than other people. And so the person who's handling the scheduling, they'll do it at the beginning of the week. And she said now that she understands the way that the employees in the office are performing, and specifically the way that they're performing, she understands that motivation and their inclinations. She's positioning them in the office based on their flow of clients. And so they can predict when they're going to have a higher visits on specific days. And so she'll position her people based on their ability to make connections with clients, based on their ability to empathize and relate with a new client's story, or do things like paperwork and be able to sit and just focus on specific tasks. So she's literally scheduling their employees based on their strengths. Wow. And they're seeing incredible efficiency and growth, not just in the amount of clients that they're seeing per week, but their ability to handle higher amounts of clients. It's almost going unnoticed, because the numbers they gave me, they said we used to feel kind of chaotic seeing 70 clients a week. Now we're seeing more than 120 a week, and it feels no different than seeing 70 a week. Wow. And so they're seeing that kind of smoothness in their operation, and they're really pointing it back to, because we're positioning each other to be able to work out of their strengths every day.
Huh. That's incredible. I mean, you think about that in that mindset shift of, yeah, let's put people in the right places to do the right things when we know. I mean, as business owners, folks, you guys know the ebbs and flows of your business, so if somebody does better at this, why not put them in that spot in your business? That's a really interesting way to go about, like you said, a legitimate business strategy in a way. So speaking of that, Dan, I guess maybe take us a little bit further into, how does that change the narrative? I know I've heard a lot of times, I've probably even said a lot of times myself, let's focus on fixing our weaknesses and knowing what those are, and improving ourselves by improving our weaknesses. But I think you've got maybe a little different theory to that. Yeah.
In one of the strengths that I have in my top 5 list of strengths is it's called context. And so it means that I really, it means more than just that I appreciate history, but it means that I really look to the past in order to help me make decisions for the future and understand the present. And so I have this natural kind of pull to looking at history and looking at the way things had happened in the past. And if you study anything about psychology, you know that that is really a focus historically on negative things and fixing weaknesses. Yeah. And going back to Don Clifton, the man who's a psychologist, he was a World War II veteran. He created this assessment. He wondered what would happen if we focused on what is right with people instead of focusing on what's wrong with people. And this is to say that instead of spending time to improve these weaknesses, we should instead invest that time to developing natural talents into strengths. And so he began to research this. He began to research not just the behaviors of people, but what would happen if we started to be strategic about focusing on what's right. So if my daughter brings home mostly A's and maybe a C, instead of hammering her for that C, helping her to manage that and to try to improve as much as she can, or manage that as much as she can so it doesn't get any worse, but really saying, okay, we see that you're excelling in these other areas, so let's manage what we can, but let's really invest most of our time into continuing to develop those ways that you excel. And the research shows that everything changes when this happens, both from a team perspective as well as an organizational perspective. And so a couple of key metrics, if you look up Gallup or StrengthsFinder, a couple of key metrics you'll probably find that they like to publish in order to illustrate the power of working from strengths is that the people that do so, they're 3 times as likely to report as having an excellent quality of life, and they're 6 times as likely to be engaged in their jobs. Wow. And employee engagement is a big metric nowadays and in recent years because their most recent studies show that only about 30 to 33% of employees are actually engaged in their job. So almost 70% of people are not engaged in the work that they're doing. And that can be anything from just being apathetic, punching in the clock, to as destructive as creating a negative environment or actively job hunting while they're on the job.
Yeah.
And so there's some big metrics that state that when people are working from their strengths, it really impacts their entire life, not just their work life.
Wow. Cool. Wow. That's really, I mean, it's just a great way to kind of reframe things. And I want to add a question here that we had from one of the listeners. Ron had asked, do you change job descriptions to match employee strengths?
Yeah, you could. Yeah. If you have a job that really is something, and I'll use this as an example, something that's really requiring a lot like highly analytical talent. If you're wanting somebody to interpret big data, for example, you definitely could include that verbiage in there. We're looking for someone who naturally observes patterns, who is really good at being able to observe a pattern and then tell that story to people who don't understand big data. So yeah, I think it would absolutely be helpful, not only because it'll help you identify the right people for that job, because people that don't naturally observe patterns in big data, if they read that, they're going to be like, oh, that's not for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could absolutely start to use verbiage, especially verbiage learned from StrengthsFinder, in order to kind of craft a job description based on the skills that are needed.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, you know, it's from talking to you, it sounds like too, you know, even if you've got somebody in a job, that if you maybe not changing their job specifically, but change their job description and make them feel, you know, because then they're coming to do their job that's X. And now if you change their job description slightly to match their strengths better, I think they're going to want to come to work and go, yes, I am doing what I am strong at, and get some satisfaction out of that. So
yeah, you're right. That could be it could be a baby step in that positive direction of saying, hey, we're really trying to focus on you and make sure that you're doing what you do best. So yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, that like you said, the research shows that employee engagement is such an important metric, and I think for small businesses, you know, you can be in a place where you can't compete with the big guys because you don't have the benefits, you know, this, that, or the other thing. But you know what? You can have the happiest employees ever that will run through a brick wall for you if they feel engaged and part of your, you know, that you're focusing on their strengths and what they do best. So
yeah.
Good stuff there. Okay, Dan, I know you briefly mentioned at the start that what you do, you know, I don't know when you actually sleep, because it sounds like you've got your fingers in a lot of things, but people that don't know this, you're the director of a pretty awesome organization called Kids Against Hunger. Maybe just tell us a little bit about that, but I also want you to share with us kind of how your strength coaching and your abilities there has kind of impacted that part of your life.
Yeah. So Kids Against Hunger is an organization that facilitates food packing events. And so volunteers come around assembly lines and they package this food that's designed for people that are malnourished. So it's scooping rice and soy and vitamin mix and dehydrated vegetables in a bag. And it's a great family-friendly event that allows people to come together and really get their hands involved in a story bigger than themselves. And so we do events all over the St. Louis area. We do a couple out, we do one in Jeff City, and we've gone out of the metro area for a few events in the year. But mostly we're in schools and churches and businesses in the St. Louis area. And we packaged last year over 644,000 meals. And we take all of that food and we go to Haiti with it. And the story of our organization is in Haiti, and we partner with organizations down there that are using the food to employ Haitians up in the Northwest with work for food programs. It provides school lunches to orphanages. School lunch in Haiti is not kind of a normal thing like it would be here. So gives them a really dynamic opportunity to serve community, and gives parents a really high incentive to make sure their kids get to school if they know that they're going to be fed while they're there.
Yeah.
So we're involved in a lot of different works. And whenever I go, so my top 5 strengths, I probably should have started off with this. If people might not be familiar with this, are analytical, discipline, harmony, which means I like to bring peace. I like to resolve conflict. I don't want to rock the boat just for the sake of rocking the boat. Consistency. I prefer everybody to really be treated the same, and kind of this format of rules and regulations should apply evenly across the board. Yeah. And then context that I already referenced. So that might not mean a ton to you right now if you're just being introduced to StrengthsFinder, but essentially I like structure, and I like preparedness, and I don't prefer chaos. So I don't know why I chose to work in Haiti, because all your plans go to pot. Nothing but spontaneity required. So, but whenever we go down to Haiti, the cool thing about our organization is we actually follow the food. So we package the food at our events. It's 30 cents per meal, and that helps us be able to ship it. And then I follow the food and deliver it to our partnering organizations personally. And we bring volunteers with us that want to actually help distribute the food. It's really, really awesome. But it's a very highly logistical trip. It takes a lot of planning, and you're dealing with customs, and you've got to get rental trucks, and you've got to move food from one truck to another. You got to drive on kind of rough terrain, and so it's usually scheduled and very planned out as best as possible for safety and for efficiency, things of that nature. My wife joined us last year, and one of her strengths that she leads very strongly with is empathy, which means she really she feels the atmosphere in the room around her. So if somebody's upset, she's really going to pick up on that before someone like me would. She loves celebrating with people. She loves hurting with people. So she leads through feelings. And she had mentioned to me, she said, so we stop at this orphanage that we support, and how much time are we going to be able to spend there? And I said, we usually spend 30, 45 minutes. We hear some stories, we pass off the food, and then off we go. And she kind of stopped me, and she said, I'm going to need to spend more time in there. I can't just have this transactional experience of dropping food off. And so it kind of created this awareness in me that, you know what, she's right. She's bringing a new strength to the team that none of us are really high in. Yeah. Not because we have hearts of stone, but no. It's just empathy is not, we don't really lead strongly with that. And so some of you out there who are like me, you're probably nodding your head like I totally get it. So I talked to the team. I said, hey, my wife's coming. She really needs to be able to feel with some of the people that we're going to meet, including children that have come from really challenging circumstances. And so I set the expectation that we're going to be spending more time at places so we can have time to, if nothing else, just hold kids and love on them, because that's important for us to be able to do as well. It's not an excuse for us to not do that, but we're going to follow my wife's lead because she does it so naturally. Yeah. And I think that's a great point, because a lot of people a lot of people, whenever they hear about stuff like assessments, they tend to say, that's just something that people can use as a crutch so they don't have to do certain things.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's that way at all. I think it's the awareness and understanding of why people don't naturally do certain things. And if they need help, then they lean on a teammate or a partner or a coworker that does it better, more naturally. And they lean into their leadership and follow their lead into that, whatever talent is required. And in this story's case, it was empathy. It doesn't mean I can't be empathetic. It looks differently whenever I am empathetic. And so we chose to submit to my wife's strength and follow her lead. And it created an awesome experience because it was something that would not have happened had it not been for a team member's high empathy in that scenario.
Nice. Yes. It's one of my favorite stories, Dan, that you've told. And I really identify with that too. I'm probably closer to you, and I'm looking forward to finding out exactly what I am. But my guess is I'm probably closer to you, where my wife would be similar to your wife in the empathy department. So, but to be able to kind of mindfully think about those things, it, again, improves your life, could potentially improve your business in a certain area. I mean, there's all these positive benefits that go into understanding these things. So, that's why I'm so excited to talk about this today. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit more about your company here for a second and your strengths. And I'm going to put the website up here on the bottom here and show that for everybody to check out. But give us some ideas about the services you provide within this and how maybe, kind of what the next steps are.
Yeah, absolutely. So I created Kaleo Coaching because I'm passionate about building people up to the good work that they're called to throughout their community. And so I'm working with organizations and individuals to help them uncover their talent using the Clifton Strengths Assessment, develop a plan to invest in those talents so they really become true strengths, and then aim them towards their goals. So intentional decision-making is key for me because a lot of people are either just kind of falling into scenarios, or especially younger people, not quite sure how to handle college, or what should I study? What should my career be? And so I'm excited to help people using coaching and using the Clifton Strengths Assessment. So you can go to Kaleo Coaching website that he's got up here. If you select services, you can see that you can work with me to receive a code to take that Clifton Strengths Assessment, and as well as receive a coaching session with me. And you'll see two options there. One for it's $30 lower in price because it gives you just the top 5 strengths of 34 possible. Or you can take the assessment and uncover the full 34 in order. So you can really understand, hey, what are those talents that are in the bottom, so that you can manage it. And remember, not so that you can, in an unhealthy way, focus on them to try to make them stronger, but so you can know what to manage around when it comes to what those lesser talents would be. And know what to focus on with those top 5, 10 talents that would come up in your results. So when you schedule a coaching session with me, or actually when you schedule one with a Gallup employee, it can cost about $195, I believe, is the rate, depending on the assessment. Though if you go to my website, you can receive that same coaching session with me for $120 or $150 respectively, depending on what if you want the top 5 or the full 34. Or if you're a manager, or you're looking for someone, if you're looking to empower your team and move them from really a good team to a great team, I have dynamic evidence-based workshops to help you kind of create your organization and help them become strengths-based. So those are some of the things that I'm doing now, and some of the things that you can look at and reach out to me through the website. Are you still there, Aaron? Aaron, I'm unable to hear you. If you're
Okay, everybody, that was here. I was trying to get through the phone. Dan.
Hey.
Okay, lost. I don't know what happened. Lost internet here at the office. So anyhow, I'm back. I'm sorry.
Awesome. No problem.
Cool. Well, I caught a little bit of the end of that. I know everybody else caught it because I was also kind of catching it through my phone. So again, get over to Dan's website there. I appreciate you sharing some stuff there, but not everyone. Okay, did everyone leave? No, I'm got some comments here. Did everyone leave? Not everyone. Okay, good. We're still here. I think everybody's still here. So Dan, the last kind of question I wanted to ask, and again, those of you that stuck through my technical difficulties there, if you guys have some questions for Dan, please feel free to post them in there now. But I guess point us towards one thing that people can maybe do today, just in thinking about their strengths. Obviously, the biggest thing they can do is come over to your website and get signed up there, and I'm going to talk about that more in just a second. But give us one little thing that maybe we can start thinking about today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I get, if you're new to StrengthsFinder, then I probably made some statements like analytical and context that you're not quite understanding. And so a lot of the language can be really new. So I would encourage you to consider 5 clues to talent. If you've never really considered, or you can't really define, I don't really know what I'm talented at. One of the 5 clues to talent is yearning. Well, actually, let me run through the 5. Yearning, satisfaction, rapid learning, glimpses of excellence, and what one psychologist calls flow. And so basically, yearning is basically answering the question, what do you know that you can do well, but you haven't yet done? Or if you had an entire week to just clear your calendar and do something, what would you spend your time doing? So it kind of, that natural draw, what naturally draws you in terms of activities and things of that nature. Satisfaction, that's really something that you do, and then you think to yourself, man, I cannot wait until I do that again. Rapid learning, that's a clue that really deals with how we're wired to learn, things that you just pick up on. And it might be something that you just pick up on, you can perform, and then when someone says, hey, how did you do that? You're like, I don't really know. I just did it. So those things that you're just naturally able to pick up on, all of these are clues to talent. Glimpses of excellence. So that's those moments where you just succeed. You're just successful in things. And this is a good one for people outside of you, people that know you well, that might be able to look at how they experience you and be able to affirm something. So that might be a good question for a spouse or a close friend to say, hey, when have you seen me actually just excelling at something, a task or a project? And then that last one, flow, that's really where you're performing an activity, you're doing something, and just time just seems to go away because you're just so focused on it. So those are 5 clues. If you go to coaching.gallup.com, you can find a really cool article that talks about those 5 clues of talent. So if you're new to this whole concept, those are some tips to just kind of think through, like, what am I good at? And it might help you kind of uncover some natural talents. Though, Aaron, you're right. The best way is jump on the website, my website, kaleocoaching.com, reach out to me for one of those codes to take the assessment, because that's probably the clearest thing you can do. It will really help you become engaged with this language, help you clarify the natural talents you have to offer. And then working with me as a coach, it can be powerful because it can really help you understand and develop, make a plan to develop those talents to becoming strengths and really aiming them at either your business or possibly if you have a teenager or someone who's about to enter school, it can really help clarify the direction they might want to go based on what's naturally drawing them and what kind of natural talents that they have. So taking that assessment can definitely be life-changing.
Nice. Yeah. And that's really what I wanted to talk about too. You kind of briefly touched on it there, but I mean, the thing I'm most excited about after getting a chance to understand this a little bit more is, we could probably go out and find different little random free tests online, for silly things. And I've found that, and I've done that, and I've given my employees those things and things
Yeah.
like that. But I think, obviously getting to be part of this Gallup certification situation, Strengths Finder, obviously is one real big bonus. But I think the thing that really excites me is that opportunity to have somebody that really understands it, like you, help me through, okay, now I know what my strengths are, from 1 through, I think you said 34, correct?
That's right.
So now what do I do with that? And
Right.
I think that's where the real value comes in. And that's why, kind of working with somebody like yourself would be fantastic for folks. So just get over to your website there and pick that out. Ron asks, where did Kaleo come from?
Yeah, it's great. And there might be some out there who know Greek better than me who might be saying, it's pronounced Kaleo, and I've heard it pronounced that way. But that's a word that's really meaningful to me because it is a Greek word that means to be called out or to be invited into something. And so, again, a lot of my story had to do with relearning what I believe to be calling and my calling in life, and relearning to understand that to be more about me than about a title that I might or might not have. And so I decided to name the coaching business Kaleo Coaching because I'm really wanting to build people up to the good work that they're called to, and use that as kind of the foundational purpose for why Kaleo Coaching exists.
Nice. Okay, perfect. Well, I love that story. And Dan, thank you so much for your time today. And I'm looking forward to working with you here soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
All right, Dan. All right, guys. Well, that was fantastic. Dan gave us such a great amount of information there, and lots to kind of think about, lots to kind of consume. And like I said, I'm looking forward to, I'm going to take the assessment, go through the coaching with Dan here soon, very soon. And so I will keep reporting back to you guys on what I've found. And so if anybody has any thoughts about what you think my strengths are, go ahead and throw them out there. Let's see if we're right. And again, I'm not real sure. I have some gut hunches as to what I think. And so I'm really looking forward to this. But all right, everybody. Well, we've come to the close of another Small Business Saturday. And again, I very much appreciate Dan's time here. I want to go ahead and pop up my website there for you to get on over to aaronmontgomery.info and check out any information there. Go back. I mentioned last week that I'm in the process of turning these weekly videos into a podcast series as well. So you can go back and listen to those, but still in the works a little bit. So more info on that coming soon. I do want to remind everybody that if you haven't gone through my business plan series, the 5-part plus the bonus 6-part series, that you really should. And I had a new person come through this week that just got started with it, Mary. So thank you so much, Mary, for doing that. And I'm excited to be part of your journey on your business plan there. And Todd, yes, beard growing is definitely. I'm trying to decide. I just really can't figure it out. I normally just have a goatee, but through the holiday season with all the work that I was doing and how busy I was, I kind of just got lazy. So, and then when it came time to go, okay, the New Year's here, I should shave it. I'm like, it's okay. So we'll see. I got through the itchy part. So anyways, we'll see how that goes. Teresa, thank you. Yes. Fortunately, it's just a 2-mile drive home here. So I'm going to make that journey here shortly. But one last thing, if anybody wants to reach out to me, has any questions about anything, Dan, the SEO we talked about, marketing, anything, here's my email address. Hit me up anytime, aaron@montcoconsulting.com. And I am looking forward to next week. Haven't quite got next week fully planned out, but it will be something good. So if there's something you guys want to hear about, email me and we'll see if we can either find somebody or if it's something that I've got enough knowledge on to bring you some good information in 30 minutes. So, all right, everybody, have a fantastic rest of your Saturday. For those of you in the St. Louis area, build some snowmen and send me some pictures. Talk to you soon.